if you feel like you've outgrown most of the most popular self-improvement books, then you probably have. Today, I'm going to give you a list of the self-improvement books that are extremely popular, that are cult classics, yet I think they're outdated, oversimplified, or just bad for you. And more importantly, I'm going to give you the alternative list that's going to replace all of them and give you more practical knowledge that you can use to become the best version of yourself without having to read 50 books a month. My name is Mehin, I'm a law student, I'm a hyperpolyglot, and I'm somebody that has been reading more than 50 books a year from the age of 16. And in this list, we're going to cover even the ones that I'm personally attached to. By the end of this video, you're going to have 10 more options of books that you can read instead of the ones that you have probably already read. But not just that, you're also going to get a free PDF of my self-improvement book checklist that you can follow along throughout your year. And the first, The Power of Now. And I know this book is a cult classic, everybody loves it, there's a lot of lessons that you can get from it. I don't think it's as practical. So the alternative that I present for the book, The Power of Now, is going to be The Untethered Soul. So let's first understand what was The Power of Now about and why I think it's not the best book that you can read. First of all, it's more about mental time travel and about how focusing on the present moment instead of your past regrets and your future aspirations gives you more to live, more to experience, and how you shouldn't focus on your emotions that much. The main messages are that peace comes from detaching, that suffering is completely natural, and that you have to live in the present moment. I believe that in this book, there's a huge gap in understanding where you should really comprehend your emotions and when you should detach from them. It's more about detaching from your emotions rather than observing them, and it does give a little bit of avoidant vibes. Other than that, the framework presented in the book seems very passive to me and not that action-oriented. The Untethered Soul is more focused on observing your emotions, on understanding that they're separate from your body, but still being in the role of a person that sees their emotions and just chooses to detach from it without shaming any feelings and without oversimplifying things. While both books are more on the spiritual side, The Untethered Soul presents the message in a more clear way. So if you think that this was overrated, I'm going to show you what overrated really means in the next book. The next book is The 5 a.m. Club. So it's basically like rearrange your mornings, but you can keep procrastinating while doing this. With this book, I have a problem. But first of all, let's discuss what the 5 a.m. Club is about. And also as the alternative, I'm going to present the book, The One Thing. The 5 a.m. Club defines that you should wake up earlier so you have more time to spend on deep work. And it presents the principle of 3 time blocks by 20 minutes, where the other shows you how to spend your morning time in the most productive manner. Yet this book is extremely oversimplified and it has this filter that applies to everybody. Instead, the book The One Thing is more about deep working, is more about prioritizing one task throughout the day, and this is going to lead to better productivity and better focus. So while waking up early is still plausible, in The One Thing, the main focus is not the time of waking up, but the quality of work. And it can also be adapted to people with different circadian rhythms and different lifestyles. And one of my problems with the 5 a.m. Club is that it promotes waking up very early. And yes, it may work for most people, but this is one of the parts of the hustle culture that really kills human health, because waking up early, if you're not prioritizing your sleep, is not going to let you do the 320 time blocks system, because you're not going to be focused enough. So while waking up early is great, it should be empathized that sleep matters way more than any system, any exercise, and any other self-improvement or optimization trick. So as a bonus, other than reading The One Thing, I advise you that you read the book Why We Sleep to understand when you really should wake up, how to prioritize sleep, and in combination with the book The One Thing, I'm pretty sure that's going to give you the most tangible results. And while I have a problem with the 5 a.m. Club, now I'm going to move on to the book that everybody has a problem with, and it's The 48 Laws of Power. I'm not one of the haters of the 48 Laws of Power. I believe that everybody has to read this book at least once in their lifetime, more as fiction rather than as self-improvement or as something to apply in their lives later. But you do kind of need to understand the message from the 48 Laws of Power in a way that's not manipulative, but rather protected. The alternative I'm going to present to you instead of the 48 Laws of Power is games people play. So why do I think that the 48 Laws of Power is outdated? Because it's more focused on manipulation, and it's also not as applicable in normal life. And the 48 Laws of Power can also lead to paranoia about social interactions And it's definitely not something that we want when we're trying to build authentic connections and we're trying to build real charisma and influence. So why do you think that games we play is a better alternative? This book explains social connections in their core. It explains how we form social connections. It explains the main patterns that we have in the society and how to escape those harmful patterns and manipulations. And it emphasizes the need for transactional analysis, and also it stresses adult-to-adult connections as the highest form of social interactions. And this book is less manipulative in nature. It's more about protecting yourself. It's more about reading the room and understanding people better, as well as your own perception of society and your own psychological patterns that you may want to avoid, but still read The 48 Laws of Power as general culture. And this book was hated by everyone, but the next book is going to be a public favorite. And I'm not trying to disrespect it, but maybe you should go a little deeper. The next book is Atomic Habits. And no, I'm not going to tell you that Atomic Habits is a bad book, because it's not. It's a great beginner book to understand what is self-help, how you should form habits. For me, it's very surface level. And if you read more than 10 self-improvement books, you're probably going to get the message of the Atomic Habits anyway. And it's not really helping you form a new perception of the world. It doesn't change that much, yet it shows you how to build effective habits. Not as applicable as I believe it should be, though. As an alternative to it, I'm going to give the book Deep Work. The Atomic Habits show you the system of forming goals, show that consistency is better than intensity, and that action, if repeated, compounds, which is a great message. Yet it ignores most creative tasks. A habit could be, for example, working out. If working out is something that you can do on a daily basis, and you don't need any specific conditions for it. Creative work is a little bit different, and it's very hard to apply the lessons that you have learned from the Atomic Habits to creative work. The book Deep Work stresses the importance of attention, and it's a current problem that we have. And it also shows how focus is a skill that you can train over time, and you should pay attention to building your skill of focusing over long periods of time. It also shows how shallow work is almost useless, and how deep work and shorter but deeper and more focused sessions of work can bring you better results. This book is way more flexible than Atomic Habits. It's way deeper. So while you're going to use the lessons learned from Atomic Habits to do stuff that you have to do on the daily, and that's going to compound like your little tasks, Deep Work is going to help you achieve your real big goals over time. And it's going to teach you the skill of focusing. And in my opinion, if you have the habit of deep work for at least 2 hours a day, you don't really need anything else. And if you've ever said that you just need motivation, the next book is going to expose you. The next book that I'm going to give you an alternative to is the 5-second rule. And not that I have a personal problem with it, yet I do think that it's very oversimplified as an alternative. I'm going to give you the book Grit. What is the 5-second rule about? It's about counting from 5 to 1 and acting and basically forming a habit of starting to do things on this lever of 5 seconds. It doesn't really take into account your feelings as a human, your levels of energy, and also it simplifies procrastination as something that you can beat with this 5-second rule, while procrastination goes way deeper in human psychology, just having to start doing something. If you want to read something better that's going to help you beat procrastination a little bit better than that, then I recommend that you read Grit. It shows that passion, discipline, and also consistency lead to more results that talent could give you. And if you keep on working on something while also improving yourself and being consistent about it and having the passion for it, you're going to achieve results way faster and in a way more high quality manner. Why I think this book is better, the 5-second rule is trying to beat procrastination. The Grit shows you how to have the purpose, which is going to help you, how to not rely on talent, and how to understand your own power when it comes to achieving your goals, which is way more effective in beating procrastination than counting from 5 to 1, in my opinion. In that, the Grit scales over months. It shows that motivation isn't a very reliable tool for you. And other than that, this book shows that learning how to endure tough things to get what you want in the future helps you form healthy habits and to get the identity that you want to get from this book. So it's way more effective in the combat against procrastination. And also, this book is very much grounded on research rather than just a psychological phenomena that's not very reliable. Please read it. And then we're moving on to one of the biggest books ever, and also the book that made everybody feel productive while they're not. So let's move on to Think and Grow Rich. And as an alternative to it, we're going to have the book mindset. So what is Think and Grow Rich about? You have to change your thoughts to change your reality, that if you believe something enough, then you're probably going to get it. So basically, you're going to get your dreams if you believe in them and you have the confidence to it. And some examples from famous people, and these examples are not really rooted in anything psychological or goal-oriented. Other than that, Think and Grow Rich is a little bit too spiritual for a book that's focused on success. And even though it's trying to be identity-driven, it's not that much about mindset, but about self-belief, visualizations, and shaping your reality with your thoughts. And doesn't really have the aspect of hard work plus belief as a complex system that you need to use. So it's just focused on thoughts. Well, the book Mindset, and it's one of my favorite books, it's focused on two types of mindsets. It could be fixed mindset or growth mindset. And it shows the fundamental difference between these two. The growth mindset is, of course, confidence too. It's believing that your skills, abilities, money is not static. Also, that you can work on it to make it bigger, to scale it, right? While fixed mindset is the mindset of that if you have something, then it's static, then you can't really change it, you can't really influence it, so you shouldn't even try. Why I like this book, why I think this book is a way better alternative to Think and Grow Rich, is because in the book Mindset, it really shows that you can change it, and that does incorporate hard work inside of the process, instead of just changing your thoughts and visualizing how you have a six-pack, or like how you're reading 50 books a year without really reading 50 books a year. That this book is way more action-oriented, and it's way more productive if you read it instead of Think and Grow Rich. And if I told you about the previous books that you should read them, then Think and Grow Rich, if you haven't read it, then you probably shouldn't. And if you do, read it as fiction, not as self-help. The next one is the Holy Grail for business people over 60. And of course, I'm talking about Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I think I still have it here, yes. So I got this book when I didn't even speak English back then. And I was around 11, I just picked it up. Of course, I couldn't understand what assets were at the time, so I didn't read it. And when I did read it at the age of 15, it taught me nothing. So if you're serious about learning budgeting, how to get rich, and how to make money, this book is not going to help you that much because it's very outdated. The only tangible lesson that you get from it is that assets are better than liabilities. The problem is that the notion of asset and liability are not fixed. They don't have fixed definitions. A house could be a liability or an asset at the same time. Also, this book emphasizes risk-taking and doesn't really take into account your background or your goals. It is mostly viewed as a beginner book in finance, and the alternative that I think is way better if you're a beginner in reading finance books is The Psychology of Money. It's a very popular book too, yet it's so much better and it teaches you almost everything that you need to know to get started in your journey of learning finance and understanding how money works. It doesn't go into too much depth on the stock market or anything like that. It does give you the understanding of money, what mindset you have to gain money, and it does prioritize stability over risk-taking, and it includes the fact that you have to be more reasonable with your money instead of being reckless. And if you're going to read one book about money on Earth, you probably have to read that one specifically. And the next book is, as I said about Atomic Habits, it is a good book, but you've probably outgrown it. And it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the alternative to this book is Never Split the Difference. But the message of How to Win Friends and Influence People is mostly don't criticize, don't condemn, smile more at people, be more authentic, and focus on people, which is absolutely true if you just want to improve your relationships with people. But if you're trying to use lessons from How to Win Friends and Influence People in content marketing or business, it's not going to be that applicable. So it also is more about avoiding conflict instead of really facing it, which can backfire if you overdo it. Why is Never Split the Difference the better alternative? It shows you the art of negotiation. That every conversation is basically a negotiation. It shows you how to say no when you want to say it. It also teaches that emotions matter more in conversations than logic, and it makes you understand social dynamics better so that you have an idea about how to speak to people in a way that it's going to give the most benefits to you and to them, so that you can understand that what you're saying has to please their emotions rather than their reasonable mind. It also works in high-stakes environments like business environments, or if you're trying to collaborate with someone. How to Win Friends and Influence People is more of a personal relationships book. this is way more usable in real life and in more serious environments. So if you haven't read How to Win Friends and Influence People, definitely read it at least once because it's a very good book for beginners. You should also definitely read Never Split the Difference on the side. Also, if you want a video about more advanced versions of the most popular self-improvement books, I can make it too. Just write in the comments. Of course, I'll answer. And maybe I'll do that video next. We've talked about all the self-improvement books, but if you like inspirational stories, we go next. The Alchemist. I've read it in a very early age too, and I've reread it, and it's a book about finding your destiny. It's about how obstacles shape you, somewhere between fiction and nonfiction. It's kind of weird that it's perceived mostly as nonfiction nowadays. I think that it can romanticize suffering, and it's also more passive. It's not that much action-oriented, but more go-with-the-flow type of book, which is not that useful for ambitious people that are trying to get the most out of life. It doesn't have a real-life basis. It's harder to understand the real lessons behind it, and it's harder to apply it in real life because it's more like motivation. So as the alternative to it, I'm going to give you the book, The Man's Search for Meaning. And this book is based on real life, and it shows more that suffering is a part of life, and that humans still find ways to stay humans even in the hardest times. And it shows how we preserve our humanity and how to live with suffering rather than viewing it as obstacles. Or why I like that book better than The Alchemist is that this book is more focused on the internal understanding of life instead of the external and passive comprehension. So it gives you more how to endure and how to be happy no matter what. So we're moving on to one of the most iconic books that exist, and still not the best one for sure. Like, definitely, it's not the best one. Believe me when I tell you that. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and as an alternative to it, I'm gonna give you the book Principles. It's a book that I really like, and I think it's very useful for you to read if you're a beginner. It does promote a value-based lifestyle, principles that you should follow. It shows you how to shape an identity that's going to make you a highly effective person. Yet it doesn't go very much in detail on how to do it. It doesn't give you a strict framework or that many actionable steps that are really going to make a big difference on it. It's very idealistic about human behavior. It assumes stable environments, and it's not really applicable in real life because human relationships are way more complex than the book shows, and you have to have the values that are so strong that you're not going to bend under the outside pressure. So it does give you character and intentions, but it doesn't really provide you with decision-taking. While Principles focus on systems, it focuses on radical truths, radical transparency, and also on decision-making. And it's more about building systems of principles instead of just shaping your character in a way that is high value. It also takes into account that the people can be biased and that relationships are not always linear, as well as shown the algorithms that you can build if you want to live by your principles and by your values. It's more scalable, and the lessons that you're going to learn from this book are way more applicable than those that you're going to learn from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So if you're tired of reading the same old books and not really learning anything, because most of them are just simply outdated, you can download my free self-improvement book checklist. It only has the books that are really useful and that you can apply in your daily life. And if you're still watching this video, I hope that you will take action on the lessons that these books give you. And if you want to see more self-improvement content, that's what I do all day long on this channel. I talk about AI, language learning, general self-help, and productivity. So good luck. See you later.